Hey, what's up everybody, it's your boy Ryan here. So apparently all of my viewers want me to post another video of this series. So here you go. I hope you enjoy it and let's begin with that video. Now in third point of view, Izuku Midoriya was a hunter. He enjoyed bringing criminals into the face of justice for those that sought to harm people. He wanted people to feel safe and secure. And just because he came to Japan doesn't mean that he was going to stop tracking down villains and bringing them to justice. As such, Izuku Midoriya decided to start his hero patrols in Japan after a week of being in the country. Stella and he had enjoyed their free time together, but he did need to do what he was sent here for. So once Stella went to sleep, Izuku decided to go out and start his search for anything that would lead him to find out who was making the creatures. Hisashi had some possible clues to who it might have been. Hisashi had told Izuku and the president all the commotion about an old doctor he worked with. Hisashi actually confessed that the doctor is older than 100 years, which had surprised everyone when they learned about it. Hisashi said that the doctor had a quirk called Life Force. This quirk is similar to anti-aging quirk that we possess, but it's a degraded version in my view. It provides a youthful appearance compared to your true age, but has a horrible negative effect. It caused the user physical mobility to worsen, which means that it was never a quirk that wanted to take, since it would hamper me in my battles all those years ago. Hisashi stated and Izuku would have to agree. From what Hisashi knew is that the doctor was involved in researching quirks and always wanted to find a way to reproduce quirks. The doctor believed that the quirk would hit a singularity point one day and cause something to happen. Even Hisashi believed in the singularity point, but he believed that the quirks would rest on the power level and become weaker before growing stronger again. He also believed the quirkless people were a default state of human that were left in the event that quirks ever broke humans. This way the human race would survive if humans went too far. It's why I always respect the quirkless people due to their belief, since they might be the key to keeping a human alive. Hisashi didn't think that the doctor had made a breakthrough in duplicating quirks, but it appeared that he may have found a way around it, though a bastardized version of it. It's a good thing he never knew about it, or about Izuku quirks, since it would have proven his theory possible. He never knew of Izuku or Inko, Hisashi had said in that meeting, and Izuku was glad the man didn't know about him either, since the doctor might have tried to take Izuku for experiments, though regardless of Izuku's personal feelings toward the doctor and his past work for his father, Izuku knew he would arrest the man since the man was threat to the world with his experiments. At least I have point of reference to start searching for, Izuku thought as he jumped from roof to roof during the night. As he was moving through the city, he noticed someone following him. He used his scroll to keep an eye on the individual and cursed when he realized who it was. Well, I didn't think I would run into someone from my past so soon, Izuku thought, as the person that was following him was none other than Eraserhead, aka Aizawa Shota, who was Izuku's uncle. Izuku came to stop on a roof edge and waited for Eraserhead to get close to him. Eraserhead came on the roof and slowly walked toward Izuku. "Hello, Eraserhead," Izuku stated, which caused his uncle to tense. "Oh, you know of me?" Eraser asked, prepared to attack. "Indeed I do. You're quite a good underground hero. Apologize for disturbing your patrol route, but I'm here under assignment hunting an organization down," Izuku stated, and Eraserhead was confused about who this individual was. "Who are you?" he asked, and Izuku chuckled. "Not a surprise you don't know me. I am a hero from America after all. I'm the Shadow Hero Hunter," Izuku stated as he jumped off the roof and disappeared via his shadows. Eraserhead came to the edge and saw him gone and cursed, "The Shadow Hero Hunter. He sounded young though," Aizawa stated as he decided to move on with his patrol. Izuku then came out of the shadows and watched his uncle move away. Well, I handled my emotion quite well for seeing him, but he didn't really cause me issues. He just wasn't around for me, that's all, Izuku thought as he jumped away in the opposite direction of the way his uncle went. Soon Izuku went through several small-time criminals and questioned them if they knew of any organization engaging in human experiment, since he didn't want to say the doctor's name and give his hunt for him away if he somehow had way to keep watch on the people that knew about him. So far, Izuku had struck out the entire first week of hunting, but he expected that in all honesty and will need to expand his search zone slowly but surely until he got a lead. He did create a small uproar in the police department since they believed that Izuku was a vigilante because Izuku didn't stick around after ensuring the police were given the criminals. He wasn't required as a special agent, he just filed his report with the UN and they would handle everything on his behalf because they didn't want him wasting his time with the local police unless he was requesting their support in the mission. And he wasn't going to do that anytime soon until he had a lead on where to start looking at. As such, that is how Izuku kept going about his days and kept striking out. However, a special little event happened about 10 months or so before that start of UA entrance exam. Izuku was on the street walking with Stella when he heard an explosion coming from distance. They decided to check it out to see if Izuku needed to get involved since he would easily use his quirk and the shadows to transform into his outfit without any issues. As they approached the area, they saw none other than Bakugo effing Katsuki in the hands of a villain that was trying to kill him while using him to destroy some buildings around them. The heroes on the site weren't really going anything except for Backdraft, who was trying to keep the fire from spreading to more buildings and endangering people. The other hero were just standing around doing really nothing, even though Izuku saw multiple ways for them to get the situation under control. Kamui could have used his branches to get Bakugo after wetting them with Backdraft's help for a few seconds and then pushed past the explosions from Bakugo to grab him. Outer Lady could have leaned down and picked the villains up. Of course, she would get some damage from Bakugo's explosions, but it will put an end to the fight. Their arms will have moved to the top of the building and looked for a chance to jump down and attack the villain. They could have thrown something in the villain's eyes, causing a gap in the attack since he would be blinded for a bit and couldn't redirect Bakugo's arm to attack others. However, they were not doing any of that. Instead, they were just standing there letting the idiot die. Izuku could also see his half-sibling and Todoroki standing in the crowd shouting for Bakugo to hold on. Then Izuku heard it. One of the heroes said they need to wait for someone with a better suited quirk to come and help, and this just annoyed Izuku to no end. Stella, I'm going to help even though it's them. If I turned an eye then I'm no better than they are, Izuku stated as he stepped into the shadow, and she nodded her head as she sat at the table at a little cafe watching. Izuku quickly transformed into his hunter outfit and had few of his crows in the air above the fight. Izuku always kept a large number of his crow in his shadow since he found that they could be store things in it and they wouldn't age or expire. Izuku was amazed when he discovered this out with his Shadow Master quirk. Anyway, back to the actual problem at hand. Izuku came out of the shadows and waited for a good time to strike. When the villains turned to the side a bit, Izuku darted out and everyone saw him but the villain until it was too late. Izuku got close and used his shadows to grab Bakugo and yanked him out. Once he did that, he jumped back with Bakugo and handed him off to the other heroes. They were trying to figure out who he was, but Izuku just dashed back toward the villain, who raised a tentacle and smashed it down toward Izuku, who just dodged that to the side and pierced the villain with a shadow web, but he just didn't do much. Izuku thought he wanted the villain to let his guard down as Izuku jumped back and the villain attacked, but the moment Izuku yanked his whip back and made them pull two eyes out and into his hand, which caused the villain body to break apart, since Izuku had guessed as the only actual solid part that they were required to keep the body together. Right after Izuku did that, All Might arrived on the site and crashed into the ground looking like he was going to attack the villain, but Izuku had defeated it already. Everyone was stunned to see the villain defeated so easily, but also to see All Might late to the party in sense. Izuku just rolled his eyes under his mask through, though like no one of them knew that. Izuku handed the villain's eyes to the police officer, who was about to ask who he was, but Izuku just disappeared into like the shadows near them. Everyone was shocked and stunned. Izuku then came out of the cafe and sat down with Stella without anyone even realizing he came out of thin air, since he exited the restroom from inside of the building, which made everyone none of the wiser. Stella rolled her eyes at the dramatic display and Izuku just chuckled. The two of them sat there as the heroes and police were looking around for Izuku, but they couldn't find him. Even All Might saw no sign of where Izuku went, so they had to give up. You know, they are going to assume you are a vigilante, right? Stella said, and Izuku nodded his head. Doesn't matter. Whatever they try to arrest me for it, I just need to show my hero license. I have both on me, and I will show my basic one first before the special agent one, since both have all my information blocked out except my hero name and ID number. Izuku stated and Stella just nodded her head. Izuku asked her if she was ready for UA entrance exam. Since she decided against doing the recommendation exam, she wanted to show off her own strength and not to be told she gets in due to the connection or money. I'm ready as I can be, but I'm going to keep training with the 10 months or so that we have left. If you have any time, could you help me get a bit better? She asked him and he nodded his head. I will always make time for you, my Hime, like Izuku teased, and she blushed a bit and smacked his head aside, which just earned a laugh from him. Both of them got up and soon left the cafe since they decided it was time to return home for the day. As they walked away, they ended up walking right by All Might in his skinny form, Izumiyage, Katsuki Bakugo, and Shoto Todoroki, who all didn't realize that it was Izuku but tensed up when they all thought they heard Izuku's voice, but couldn't see him anywhere since Izuku and Stella had already disappeared in the crowd. They all talked to each other and confirmed that they all thought the same thing. Izuku Yage was just near them and they didn't even notice. Over the next 10 months before the UA entrance exam, Izuku had spent a lot of time helping Stella train while he did his work on special agent case at night. However, he was honestly astonished by the display of her ability and combat learning speed, which has only gotten better over time. Izuku had realized that even with all of his quirks, that she was one of the best people capable of fighting him or his father in battle. The reason that he believed this was due to how fast she always improved and the fact that her quirk provided her multiple benefits that could display them. Both Hisashi and Izuku relied on their healing quirks to get them back up and going, but she is capable of producing fire hot enough to cauterizing their cells quickly. She a close combat person but also long range combat individual, which provides her with the ability to fight them in multiple different ways, and her quirk also provides her a healing aspect that would make her last against them. Though Izuku said capable of fighting them in a battle and not defeating them in battle, Izuku and Hisashi both have large numbers of quirk that would allow them to get out of their sticky situations as long as they didn't underestimate their opponents, and Hisashi had taught Izuku that again and again. Hisashi had reminded Izuku that even though he was stronger than All Might, he suffered a defeat at his hand since he had let his guard down and underestimated his opponent. As such, Izuku knew to be careful against even the weakest person that he fought, and to always approach them as if they could kill him if they were lucky enough and fate smiled upon them. As the months passed away, Izuku also saw an increase in activity of those that used to be related to him. He could see them looking around the city where he was on the day of the sludge attack. They must have heard my voice when out walking by with Stella. They shouldn't know who we are though. They are just blindly searching since I have seen Uncle Aizawa, Uncle Endeavor, Grandpa Torino, Sir Natai, and whoever his little helper is. Izuku thought that he realized that he called them with titles as if they were family, and Izuku honestly didn't know how to feel about that. He did it out of an instinct, and that is how he found himself on the couch in the living room with his head on Stella's lap, asking her for her thoughts about that. From what you told me, they weren't there in your life, so they didn't really harm you as your former parents did, nor your sister and her friends did. It's possibly you don't really blame them as much as you first thought. The question is, did they know about your treatment before you disappeared? If they did, then it is a whole separate issue, but if they didn't, and were lied to by the Yagis, then it's okay for you to be still want to be associated with them. Stella stated, and Izuku nodded his head. Right now, he just didn't want to deal with them, but knew he would have to sooner or later, and the number of times he keeps running into them kept increasing and slowly. The last few months passed and it was now time for the UA entrance exam. Izuku drove Stella to the UA gate and dropped her off. People looked at the car but let it go as it wasn't really shown offish as such. They just ignored it for the most part, but Stella herself did get looks from perverts males, which annoyed Izuku, which Stella just giggled at him and put a kiss on his lips before walking away. A lot of boys wanted to glare at Izuku, but he already drove off and parked the car far away from UA before he changed into his hero outfit and teleported by using one of his crows to get visual of the inside of UA. Izuku blended in with the shadows quickly before the alarms and sensor could pick up, and Izuku had no issue with Nizu finding out about him being there, but he didn't want to cause an issue, so he just hid and made his way into the school. Izuku wanted to spy on the exam because he personally wanted to see what they were like on the day of the exam. Call it an old childhood dream of his that he never got to live, so this was the next best thing. Izuku has also been debating on revealing himself to his uncle Nizu. Izuku is highly doubtful that Nizu would have allowed Izuku to be treated like he was due to Nizu's past. Nizu would have taken Izuku away if he knew, and Izuku believed he just trusted the Almighty Angry and Tornado's word because of how long he knew them and trusted them not to lie to him. As such, Izuku had already asked the UN and the American Commission President for permission to read Nizu in on the case if Izuku decided to bring him in on the case, since he would be involved Nizu most likely even if he didn't fully reveal himself. As Izuku was moving around the campus, he soon found himself in front of said Principal Nizu, who was staring at the shadows that Izuku was hidden in. Izuku was kind of shocked that Nizu was staring right straight at him. There's no way he knows I'm here, right? I'm pretty sure I hid before the sensor triggered, Izuku thought, and watched Nizu. Nizu just walked up to the shadow and waved his paw and told the shadow Izuku was hiding in to follow him. Izuku did as he was asked, since he had been found out. How did he find me? Izuku thought, as he just followed Nizu. Soon they arrived in the principal office where Izuku came out of the shadows. Well, hello Mr. Hunter, Nizu said, and Izuku bowed slightly and sat down without speaking since he was afraid he would give himself away in full since Nizu was smart. Now, I'm wondering why an American hero in here in Japan. Eraser had told me he met you before. Then there was the event with the sludge villain. You keep under the radar and do your reports for your action to some other entity. I know that since the police believed you to be like a vigilante, but then they received an official report with your hero name and ID number on them through the official channels, which I can track back, so that means several things from what I can assume. One, you are wanting to keep a low profile as best as you can, but you don't mind getting involved in other primary missions you're meant to complete here in Japan. That's warranted you to come here. Nizu stated and Izuku nodded his head. Nizu observed Izuku and noticed how he never spoke in front of him. He's not mute since Aizawa said he spoke, so I must know him and likely could figure out from his voice even if it's modulated via voice changer, Nizu thought as he sat there. Interesting. Will you mind telling me if the mission involves UA since I found you on my campus? I would like to prepare for any threats you might know about that would attack here, or if I have to a mall or something if you are hunting an individual down. Nizu asked, and Izuku shook his head and wrote down that the case doesn't involve UA and that he was here for purely personal reasons since he didn't get to attend schooling past elementary and had tested out of all of his education few years ago before becoming a pro hero. Izuku wrote that it used to be a dream to attend UA, but he was a child, but it never became reality due to his situation in the past. Nizu thanked him for letting him know and the reason and offered him a view from the control room which all of his staff which Izuku accepted since he didn't have to hide in the shadows. Unknown to Izuku though, he would run face to face with his past much harder than he thought he would though. While they were walking, Nizu had been making connection to his mind and all of the information he had. He's young, really young based on the notes and height. He tested out all of schooling so he gotten his high school degree. He said he wanted to attend the UA. Nizu thought, but he was cut off by his thoughts since they arrived in the control room. The sad thing is he was close to putting Izuku's identity together from all the small clues he had due to his high spec quirk, but switched the train of thought due to arriving at the control room and needing to be ready for it. Izuku was freaking out because the moment he entered the room, it was filled with people that could recognize him. Endeavor, Serenatai, Eraserhead, Gran Torino, Recovery Girl, and Nizu were all in the room with the other staff of UA. They all looked at him and Eraserhead stood up a bit on guard when he saw Hunter. Nizu waved him off. Everyone, this is an American hero who is just visiting campus. He's here in Japan on a mission that's unrelated to us, but he wanted to watch the exam, so I've allowed him to here. Please treat him with care, Nizu stated, and they all nodded their heads. Some tried to talk to him and Izuku wrote out a response that confused Aizawa, who questioned him about it. Hunter, the last time I ran into you, you were completely able to talk, so why aren't you now? Aizawa questioned with raised eyebrow. Izuku just didn't know what to say, so he shrugged his shoulders. Then that is when Izuku tensed up in the door, and the door opened, and in came Grand Tornado with All Might. Effing crap. What are they doing here? Izuku thought, and then realized Izumi, Yage, Kashibakuga, and Shoto Todoroki would all be taking the exam today and he forgot about them. Oh dear god, that means Mahimi will have to deal with them. That's just effing fantastic, Izuku thought, and Nizu noticed how Izuku had tensed up, but it's in a side in his mind for now and would come back to it later. All Might greeted everyone and had powered down, not realizing Izuku was in the room since he just blended in with everyone. All Might, you idiot, we have a guest with us, Endeavor shouted and pointed at where Izuku was sitting, and All Might freaked out and didn't know what to do. Izuku thought was enjoying the show. Take that, you asshole. I'm so enjoying the sight of you freaking out, Izuku thought in his mind as Nizu called him. Izuku turned attention to Nizu, who wore a serious expression. Hunter, may I ask you a favor of you and ask that you keep this quiet? Nizu asked, and Izuku wrote out that he would keep it silent. They don't need to know about me already knowing it. Izuku thought, since it would be a good thing to have a favor from Nizu that he could cash in later, like helping me keep them off my back if they ever find out the truth of me. Izuku thought in his mind. Soon they all calmed down and All Might tried to start up a conversation with Izuku, who just flat out ignored the hero and didn't even write out a response. Everyone noticed it but didn't comment about it and just kept watching the exam going on. The written exam had finished. All of the students were in the auditor room listening to Prison Mike talk about the physical portion of the exam. One student got up and pointed at Izumi and told her to stop muttering, "Oh god, I hate the fact that we shared that," Izuku thought, since he knew he got it from his father, and Izuku realized that he had passed it on his half siblings soon. They all went to their separate exam sites, and Selawa wasn't with any of his past individuals, so Izuku was happy about that. The exam soon started and Sela, being trained by the Midoriyas, knew to dash off right away as the gates opened. This led her to get about 4 minutes worth of time being able to fight the robots before the others were told to go by Prison Mike. "There is no go in the hero world," he yelled out, and they all got running. Izuku just chuckled in his mind at all of them. About a half of the time had passed and Sela was like topping the chart in points. She even received a few rescue points from destroying a robot that was about to attack another person from behind. The people from Izuku's past sadly were doing good and would end up passing. They were all high ranked, but Stella had far more points due to her abilities. Then Eraserhead spoke. "I won that girl called Stella Vermilion. Overall, she's amazing and she's ever loses control of her like a powerful quirk for some reason, then I can stop it easier than Vlad could. Overall, I could she need a quirk training, but heavier focus on quirkless combat since she seemed to be far more quirk reliant, and then she need to be training in other aspects of being hero as well," Aizawa stated, and Izu agreed with him before Vlad King could say anything. Soon the Zero Pointer were all out and about when Power Loader spoke up about one robot going high wire in Zone 3, which was where Zone 3 where Izumi was located at. Everyone looked at the screen to see Izumi tried by a boulder that had pinned her leg and likely broke her ankle, which meant she couldn't escape even with her quirk being telekinesis like in Koizuyage. It wouldn't do Izumi any good since she was clearly exhausted from the exam. There was also another girl that was well trapped. Izuku wondered why she didn't use One for All to get herself out since she should have been training since young to receive it. But Izuku didn't care since he wouldn't get involved unless there was no room left for them to escape or someone to save him. "I can't get it to stop. Someone destroy it and save them since it's far too close to them anyway," Nizu shouted out as he tried to hack in the robot before it would get to them, but the robot was really damned close already and wouldn't stop in time even if it received a command. All Might stood up and was about to go when someone yelled at the screen. They all turned to and looked to see the pro hero hunter standing in front of the girls. They all turned to his seat to see only what looked like a darkness/shadow dissipating into the air. They all wondered how he got there faster than All Might, but didn't care as they all watched the scene since it would be too late for All Might to get there anyway. Down at the robot, the girl and Izumi were screaming for help when Izuku appeared. He looked at her with his quirk vision using All for One and did indeed see two quirks inside of her natural quirk and One for All. Due to how much power it radiated off itself, he knew it matched what All Might still barely had inside of him as well. Izuku then turned back to the robot and raised his hand and arms. Everyone watched as he pushed his hand together into a ball and ripped them away from each other, and a second later the robot broke apart as spikes of black material which were shadows all pierced out of the Zero Pointers robot. Izuku had manipulated the shadow inside of the empty spaces inside of the robot and had broken it apart from inside out. This caused it to fall to the side where no one was standing at. Everyone was stunned at how easily he destroyed the robot, but then got knocked out of their shock when Prison Mike's voice rang out calling the time. Izuku turned to the girl and waved his hand as the shadows gathered around and lifted the rubble of them, freeing them. The one girl got up and thanked Izuku as Izumi tried to stand and fell down. Izuku just used his shadow to catch her in her annoyance. Why I'm helping her more than needed? Oh wait, because I'm a hero and God I hate her. Izuku thought as he carried her via the shadow. He was controlling and dropped her on the ground. At the ground like a recovery girl, though the drops would be too harsh since he lightly put her down even though he really wanted to drop her he wanted really to drop her, but recovery girl would be pissed at him but doing that in front of her. Izuku then jumped back into the shadow and found himself back in control room where he had to come from. Everyone turned to him and he just shrugged his shoulder as if nothing happened. Izuku was sure he heard Aizawa and Sir Nightai whisper out, "What the F?" but he ignored them. Izuku took a paper out and wrote something down. He wrote a message to Nizu that said he would likely bring him in on a case in the coming month or so, since he might need help tracking a large threat down that he would rather get done sooner than later. Nizu nodded his head and said he would be waiting to hear from him but potential case. Izuku waved and then left them all in the room. Okay. Are we going to talk about how weird he is? Prison Mike stated, and he sat in his chair. Some staff nodded their heads, but Nizu spoke up. I'm sure I know him from somewhere. It's the reason he didn't talk like Aizawa pointed out. Hunter was sure I would figure him out, and he's determined to keep his identity hidden for some reason. It might be a part of his mission requirements anyway. I know he's the same age as our incoming freshman, Nizu stated, and everyone was in shock. Sir, are you sure? All Might asked, even though he and Inko weren't really popular with the staff due to their issue regarding their missing son, but they all knew about it. I'm sure I've gotten some clues from the talk I had with him in my office. He wrote out that the case doesn't involve UA and that he was here for purely personal reasons since he didn't get to attend schooling past elementary and had teased out all of his education in a few years ago before becoming a pro hero. Izuku wrote that it used to be a dream to attend UA when he was a child, but he never became reality due to his situation in the past. By the way, when I said Izuku, I meant by Hunter. Until now, they don't know his real identity, okay? Then we had the fact that he doesn't speak in front of me, which means I can identify him. He's really young, but I wonder whose Hunter is. Aizawa, you run into him before, at night, since he seemed to operate mostly at night. Keep an eye on him. I might end up in a battle with America over Hunter. I have multiple theories and possibly he is in a safe situation, but I just want to be careful. If he ever asks any of you for help on something, please accept his request if you can, since I want him to trust us and reach out to us if he needs help, Nizu stated. And while he was still trying to figure out who Hunter was, he indeed had multiple theories, and one of them was that Hunter was Izuku Yagi. The reason he thought of this due to the fact that Izuku disappeared during elementary. Hunter said he never finished past elementary and had tested out. Hunter said he wanted to go to UA like Izuku did, and both had issue in their childhood. And Hunter was also likely the same age as Izuku Yagi, which meant there was a 40% chance in Nizu's mind, which the current information that Hunter was Izuku Yagi, but there were many questions to how Izuku got to America and became a hero if it was indeed him. All the Hunter's Hunter's information is blocked by America government. Only his hero name and ID number are available, which means they are wanting to keep his identity under wraps. Nizu thought as he dismissed everyone to get started on their work while they were all doing that, and Izuku was freaking out. I really gave out too much information. Uncle Nizu likely has a lot of guesses of who I am and likely has already figured me out. God, why does he have such a big brain? Izuku thought since he just prayed Nizu would keep silent on his identity for now and just asked in his private instead of sending a manhunt for him. Though outside of Izuku freaking out, Izuku right in front of Yue right as Stella walked out. She got into the car and they drove off and went home for the day where they would relax and wait for her result in 2 weeks. Even though Izuku knew that Stella had placed first in the hero exam and first on written exam, Izuku decided to tease her about if she passed or not. Izuku was having fun up to the point that she threatened to kick him out of their shared master bedroom to the couch. Okay, I'm sorry, Izuku quickly apologized and was on his knees since he knew he wasn't allowed to go to any of the other rooms to sleep and had to stay on the couch or she would just extend the time limit. He ended up in the couch once before and it wasn't enjoyable. Izuku had gotten far too used to sleeping with Stella's warmth that he didn't sleep at all that night. He couldn't even fall asleep for 30 minutes, which would have granted him an entire day's worth of energy, but nope. Izuku just kept turning and tossing all night long since he didn't have patrol that day and he had eye bags under him. The next morning, Stella decided to take pity on him and allowed him to cuddle up to her, which allowed him to fall asleep for long enough to activate power nap to grant him a full night's rest after he apologized for throwing her into the pool that day before. Izuku learned that once the threat came out about sleeping on the couch, then Stella was at her limit with him teasing her or whatever he was currently doing. It wasn't limited to just teasing her either. If he were doing something really idiotic, then she would threaten him with sleeping on the couch. It became an extremely powerful tool for him to use against Izuku, and they both knew it. So, would you like your result or wait for the next few days when it should arrive? Izuku asked and she decided to just wait. And that is what they did. The next few days passed and the result arrived at the PO box that they had registered in her name, so the school didn't know her exact address. It will provide one more layer of protection from them, tracking them down if their connection got out. Izuku had stopped at it on the way home from early morning patrol since he noticed some decreases in villain activities and he decided to look into it, but he didn't find any of them. It was as if all the villains were slowly disappearing. Izuku placed the result on the table and had made breakfast for his Hime and woke her up once it was done. As they sat down and ate, Stella opened the result and Izuku's mood was ruined. I am here to deliver the result, yelled out All Might as he was on the screen. Hello, young Vermilion. I am here to congratulate you on passing the written exam with 96%, which is the highest result in UA history, stated All Might, and Izuku kissed her on the cheek. Good job, my Hime, Izuku said as they kept listening into the device. Outside of the written exam, we also have the result for the physical exam. Once again, you scored first place in the physical exam with 192 points, which means you are 10 points higher than my personal record. This also means that you are the class representative for the entire first year class. All Might stated. Then it provided more information like she was in class 1A. The projection soon stopped and they talked about the result. Izuku warned her that the people from his past were attending that school as well since he saw their result and without a doubt passed. There was also the issue of All Might and Grand Tornado teaching at school moving forward. Izuku overall believed them working there will open the school to being targeted by villains that want to take shots at the hero's reputation since attacking Yue and All Might and not even succeeding will still be hit to the hero reputation. However, he wasn't going to reveal himself just to a B word, the bad word, out over the idea of All Might working there. Stella, if something ever happened, then reach out to me via text. If there any trip of the main building, then text me the location so I can check in on it with my crows. And if something happen, I can come. And I'm not really concerned about the main campus, but I just want to be safe, Mahimi, because something doesn't feel right with the criminal activity recently. Izuku told her and she agreed to alert him of any trips off campus. Soon they just went about their day with some light training and then relaxed since she would be starting school in about a month. Izuku asked Stella about her outfit that she would wear and he was a bit annoyed but the skin being shown. If Izuku had his way, no skin would be showing, but he didn't want to be controlling, so he kept his mouth shut and Stella could tell. You want to comment, don't you? Stella asked him and he nodded his head. I do, but I don't want to be controlling, Izuku said, and she said she wanted to his comments, but he would need to accept whatever she decided in regards to it in the end. I wish the chest was covered up a bit more. I could deal with the legs, but I just really wish the chest was covered up a bit more since I don't want other men looking. Izuku said it and she giggled at him and he pouted, but he said no skin will be showing. She showed the notes and she would have a layer of material going over her body under the outfit. It will provide her some protection from the element and some attacks. It's also meant to be tear resistant in the event that everything else gets removed from me. So even though it would like the skin is showing, you need to look at the hand compared to the legs and chest is two different colors, but highly it won't be directly showing any skin in the leg or chest area and only the lower arms, Stella stated, and Izuku said he was completely happy with that since he didn't see the notes about that. Izuku did make a comment about killing any perverts that dare to perv on his Hime, and she just fell over on the couch laughing at that, which earned Izuku just pulling her into his chest to cuddle. Soon the start of UA had arrived and Stella got up and dressed in her uniform, which Izuku admitted that he found attractive. She just jabbed him playfully in the side of his comments, but he just smirked and lifted her chin slightly and kissed her. Izuku wasn't in the hero outfit or anything today. Instead, he was just in a business suit that made him look a lot like his father. Iki, you know how you always thought you were like your mother? I think you look far more like your father. Just with green hair since you stopped adding white in it now. Your hairstyle match more now and you have grown out of the most feature that looks similar to that woman. Stella stated and Izuku smiled a bit and thanked her. Izuku looked at the mirror. He did realize that his hair and eyes were white. He could be mistaken as a carbon copy of his father, and that made Izuku extremely happy. And we can hear her laughing and Stella, what do you think would happen if they find out my identity and just quickly turn my hair and eyes white in front of All Might? I think it will be a fun sight to see if he mistake me for my father. I kind of want to see his reaction, Izuku said with a smirk, and Stella just rolled her eyes at him and cited, Iki, just be careful with All Might. Remember to not let your anger consume you or you will sleep on the couch, Stella said as she pinched his side and gave him in and said he would be careful. Soon Izuku drove Stella to UA and dropped her off. Izuku was going to the local office branch today to do some work and check in with how the operation are going for their Japanese business. Stella, on the other hand, soon arrived in the classroom of Class 1A. She entered into the room to find Choto, Todoroki, Katsuki, Bakugo, and Izumi Yagi. There was also the boy that called Yagi out all the presentation by President Mike during the exam. The boy was talking to Yagi and apologizing to her for calling her out when she wasn't clearly paying more attention than him and was a better person. Scylla just ignored them all and took a seat near the front door. Soon their class was filled with people and they noticed there was one extra person with one less desk. Iki said the teacher of 1A is his uncle, which he ensured of. He hated Iki or not due to his previous quirkless status. However, one thing is clear, that someone will be expelled, if not more people, since Iki said his uncle had habits of expelling people. Stella thought as she noticed Eraserhead in his sleeping bag at the door. Stella did wonder if Izuku will take pity on the man and give him a second quirk like the power nap quirk if it was compatible with Eraserhead body. However, she was pulled out of her thoughts when he started speaking. Everyone, shut up, I'm Shora Aizawa. You will call me Aizawa Sensei. Now, put these gym uniforms on in the changing room and get to the training field in 8 minutes or I will expel you. Aizawa stated and Stella just got up and quickly moved to do it. This caused everyone else to get moving as well, and soon everyone was in the changing room. Stella was standing out in the field and Aizawa came out soon after her and was surprised to already see a student on the field. He looked at her and she looked at him. Good day, Eraserhead, Stella stated, and Aizawa's eyebrow raised a bit in shock. That student and a Frisian students at that knew who he was. I'm curious of how you know of me, Aizawa stated, and she chuckled a bit. I've been told about you, though. I wonder if you will live up to the hype he gave me. We can only see, Sensei, Stella stated, because in all honesty, she hoped Izuku had more of a family that loved him than just Hisashi. Izuku wasn't sure of Aizawa since he never came to help him, but he always did send birthday cards every single year. Izuku himself honestly hoped the man wasn't like his previous parents, but Izuku was afraid to break the mental image that he has of his uncle, who he thought was cool since Eraserhead fought nearly quirkless all of the time. Eraserhead was about to ask who told her, but the other student came out and kept his mouth shut, but he was watching her more closely now. Soon they started doing tests and Scylla had to do all the ball throw first because she scored first place in the exam. Everyone watched her as she walked up to the circle and took the ball. She powered her quirk up to fuel steam and full controlled some fire around the ball, and just threw it and it blasted off into the sky. It burned the ground around her and you could smell the charred ground. Aizawa was surprised at her quirk usage since it was even more than the entrance exam. She held back in the exam, but went more out here. No, she was more controlled in the exam, and this was more brute force to get further distance, Aizawa thought as he watched the number increase and increase. It soon finished and the ball had gone far enough that the distance was large enough to have made it to China's coast. Aizawa showed the score and people were shocked. Then some talked about how the test was going to be fun, which Aizawa got annoyed at that and stated that whoever ended up in the last place will be expelled. The girl with the zero gravity quirk named Ororaka stated that it wasn't fair. Before Aizawa spoke up, Stella did. Fair? Is the life of the quirkless people fair? To be beaten and neglected by their own family, to be neglected by everyone that is meant to take care of them. Is it fair for those with so-called villainous quirk to be treated harshly just because of a quirk? Villains attack acts of God that claim people's lives. No, they aren't, but as heroes, we can hopefully correct some of the unfairness with the influence and power we will hold, Stella stated with some coldness in her voice. Aizawa smiled and spoke up. She stated almost the exact word out of my mouth. She's right, and UA gives the teachers the right to conduct our homerooms as we wish. I can do as I wish with you all, which include expelling you all if I want so. Let's start the so-called fun, Aizawa stated with a smile. The people that had harmed Izuku in his life all flinched, and Scylla had noticed the youngest adult hiding behind the building side watching the class as well. Scylla just had a light smile on her face as she just moved back to the group of the students, but glared at the pervert that was looking at her and the girls. After a while, they all finished the test and Aizawa Sensei showed the result. Scylla placed first and Todoroki second, Yororozu in third, Yagi in fourth, Bakugo in fifth, and so forth. Mineta ended up in the 21st place. Aizawa Sensei looked at him and told him he was expelled. Minata tried to scream and protest. I didn't even get to touch the girl's boobies yet, Minata stated as he tried to touch Stella, but she turned her quirk on, burning him with a first-degree burn. Ow, he yelled out as he felt a fabric wrap around him. Aizawa had grabbed him and was glaring at him. Congratulations, you are now under arrest for attempted sexual assault, Aizawa said, and Stella had a smirk on his face. He told everyone else to go back to the classroom and introduce themselves to each other. That is how Stella found herself in front of everyone, introducing herself. Hello, I'm Vermilion. Stella, I was born in France but moved to America with my parents for family business that they expanded. I recently moved to Japan with my boyfriend, who I've been with for several years because he had to work here in Japan and we wanted to stick together. My quirk is called Phonics Queen, Stella stated as, and a lot of the girls wanted details about her boyfriend. She just shook her head and said it wasn't the right time to reveal those details. The girls just parted and Stella sat down. Soon they were allowed to leave and Stella noticed Aizawa was looking at her when she left. He likely has gotten suspicious based on my later speech from the test and the fact that I said me and my boyfriend moved here for his work, which would match the pro hero hunter. I wonder, Eraserhead, will you let Izuku down as they did? Stella thought as she left and got into Izuku's car right as he pulled up. Aizawa was watching in the distance but had no way on seeing into the car due to the tinted windows. Izuku Midoriya woke up in the morning to find his girlfriend missing from his chest. I know my voice might sound weird, but I'm recording this in multiple sessions, okay? So as I said, Izuku Midoriya woke up in the morning to find his girlfriend missing from his chest. He looked at the clock and saw there were about 2 hours before it was time for her to go to school. He got up and decided to look for her, and the first place he looked was the bathroom, and he found her there standing completely naked, and he froze. It's not like they were awkward around each other or haven't done some, sexual activities, but they haven't been full-blown nude in front of each other or gone that far in, the sexual activities. Neither of them has shown the desire of going to that stage, and they were just slowly moving forward and forward with their relationship as it naturally advanced without rushing it. So here was Izuku Midoriya standing there with only his boxers on as he saw his girlfriend completely naked when she normally wore nightgown to bed since she liked sleeping in them. Stella turned around since she finished drying her hair to find her boyfriend standing there almost naked, but then she realized was completely naked since she got out of the shower. She quickly covered herself and she was almost red as her hair. This snapped Izuku out of his daze and turned around. Sorry, I came looking for you since I didn't find you sleeping on my chest like normal. I'm sorry, I didn't say anything. I was just in daze and that side of Izuku was stuttering now and had a large blush on his face until he felt Stella pressing up against his back, which made him freeze. It's you, so it's fine if you see me like this, but I'm not ready. I'm not ready to go the full way right now, since we are still a bit younger, okay? She said with some stuttering, and Izuku quickly turned around and hugged her. She rubbed her back and kissed her forehead. It's okay, I'm willing to wait for centuries if it takes that long. We have almost all of the time in the world to take our lives as slow or fast as we want to. Izuku stated as he kept kissing her forehead. Izuku then picked her up and moved her to the bedroom and pulled her all of her clothing and uniform out of the dresser as she could change. He himself started to get changed and took his boxer off in front of her since he had seen her naked, and she screamed at him like saying "Ike," she said quickly, but he chuckled. I got to see you naked right now, so I don't care if you see me either, remember. We can take it as fast as we want or slow as we want, but I'm comfortable with you seeing me completely naked, and I love seeing you as well, my Himi. You are you have always made me feel comfortable with how my body looks, with all of my scars from my childhood, so I have no shame showing off in front of you, Izuku stated as he slipped his new clothing on but still sported a blush. Scylla soon finished getting changed as well and they made their way downstairs and Izuku made breakfast for them. Far as I know today is simple, but we do have a battle training at the end of the day. They didn't say who the teacher was, but we know All Might worked there with Grand Tornado and I think it's going to be them, Stella stated, and Izuku nodded his head. I'll keep a crow nearby like normal, but kick their ass, my Hime, Izuku stated, and Stella just giggled, which made Izuku so happy to hear in her giggles. God, I love it when I make you giggle, Izuku said, and she rolled her eyes. Soon it was time to go to school and Izuku dropped her off before heading out to do some patrols. Since he'd been noticing the dangerous trend of criminals' activity dipping even more, Izuku was afraid of a large attack incoming and decided to warn the UN so they would send a warning to the Japan Hero Commotion. Izuku stated that he believed UA would be hit likely due to All Might teaching there, and that it would damage the hero reputation in Japan if the school got attacked while All Might worked there. The UN sent the warning to Japan Commotion, but Izuku didn't know if the school received the warning or not, so he made sure to keep several crows near the school at all times, as Izuku was hunting down criminals and trying to find out what was going on. Scylla was going through her day until it was time for the battle training. And I'm sorry if any background noise, if you can hear any, so yeah. So Stella was going through her day until it was time for the battle training. Stella was sitting in the classroom and made some friends with a few of the people in class. She became friends with Jiro, Asui, and Ashido, who she found enjoyable to be around. They would all sit together during lunch and talk about things were going on. Stella even offered to help them with their homework since she was being assigned harder work that was on level with some college level work. Nizu had set it up so she would be earning college credit since he had license to perform such a class types. The homework would be given by the normal teacher and he would grade it. If she had any question, the teachers could help her since they all knew it was well, but a lot of it was self-study at her own pace. The more she finished, the sooner they earned the individual college credit. The class was shocked to learn that she was doing that type of work, but accepted it since Stella said it was happened before in she came to UA due to people testing out of high school level work. As she was waiting with everyone else, she heard footsteps quickly coming, and then the door opened and in came All Might, who did some weird pose, and Grand Tornado came in as well, but Stella just rolled her eyes and her tongue. Soon, the class was told to go to the training ground and get changed into their hero outfit. She did just that, and after 10 minutes, the entire class was standing in the control room for the same training ground that they took their entrance exam in. You all look amazing in your hero outfit. Now, let's start this training, All Might stated as he started to explain what they will be doing. Some people asked if they will be expelled like Kazawa Sensei does, or random questions. Soon they were split into teams randomly and Stella saw that she was teamed up with Jiro, and they were facing Todoroki and Uraraka. Jiro and Stella started to make a plan as they watched the other teams fight. How good are you with your heat? Stella asked Jiro, and Jiro, and she said she can handle it for a while. Part of Jiro's suit is a heat resistant and has a small cooling system for any support gear she will use, which does cool her outfit as well, which Stella was happy at. I'm a perfect counter to Todoroki's quirk, and Uraraka, we just need to avoid getting touched, which will be easy for the most part. Even if she does, I can form wings with my fire so I can act as a counter to her as well. Stella stated, and Jiro put her head down since she didn't think she would get to do anything. Don't worry, I do need your help. 1 to find them, 2 to help stall Uraraka, and if you can defeat her, I'll handle Todoroki and then we will go from there. Stella said, and Jiro was happier since she was actually doing something. They turned their attention back to the fighting and watched as it was Yagi's turn. The match went forward and Stella knew about One For All, but was confused on why she wasn't using it or so roughly as if she lacked control of the quirk itself. Did she not train with it? Stella thought, but put it out of her mind as she watched Yagi fight Kirishima and get defeated by him. Kirishima was the first being thrown around by Yagi telekinesis quirk, but he hardened his body and used his finger to claw into the ground and pulled himself, so she couldn't throw him around anymore. After she got a bit tired, he then dashed at her and slugged her in the stomach, and even her attempts with One For All were pitiful. She wasn't really gotten any combat training, which is sad considering who her father and mother are. She too reliant on her quirks, Stella analyzed, as she got much better at doing it due to Izuku teaching her. Soon the fight came to an end, and Kirishima teams won. Bakugo had his match as well, as he lost as well since Hiruzu was smart enough to make a solution agent destabilize his sweat and make it not be able to explode. As such, Bakugo only put out a light of explosions when he sweated and ended up getting teased by Hiruzu. Everyone was shocked at how easily the people they thought were at the top of the class had gotten taken out by the other. That rubbed salt in the Yagi's wound as she visibly deflated a bit. Stella was close enough and she thought she heard something muttered by Yagi about the quirk not cooperating with her. Stella was confused and thought that was crazy. The quirk wasn't cooperating when quirks aren't sentient. Then she remembered Tokiyami's quirk is a sentient as well, which meant One For All that had passed several generations could be somehow have a sentient mind inside of the quirk itself, which will make a sense due to the requiring will of the current user to pass along. Stella decided that she needed to inform Izuku those details. Then when she got home that the afternoon, but now it was time for her match. Soon she dashed and Jiro went into the training grounds. They were playing the villains team, so they just waited for the hero team to come toward them, and they hid the bomb in the separate room with no windows and only one door. Stella stood in the hallway waiting as Jiro informed her that Todoroki was coming, and right as she said that, ice was shot across the room, but Stella melted it right away. Your ice is useless against me, and so is your fire. For more or less, Todoroki, you are quirkless in front of me, Stella stated, and saw the flinch when she stated that, which made her smile slightly. Soon Uraraka came charging, but Jiro went and attempted to deal with her, which she was doing quite good at. Stella thought focused on Todoroki and made her fire surrounded him and start to heat him up. Todoroki kept his eyes going, but it just kept melting, and Stella just took control of any fire that he put off. Stella was overall the perfect counter to Todoroki in all regards. He couldn't even get close to a fight hand to hand, since she would make the fire hot enough to burn him, and he had to keep feeding ice out to keep himself cool. As she was doing that, she kept an eye on her teammates and saw that she had successfully captured Uraraka by creating a sound strong enough to stun the girl for a brief moment before she tried to the capture tape around her. Jiro then came to Scylla and she nodded her head. Let's end this. I don't want to kill him after all. Scylla then dashed forward with the capture tape and used her fire to hide her approach. Right as she got up close, she broke the firewall and she had created and wrapped the tape around him quickly before he could even react. The match was called and they were all told to return to the control room. Stella came back into the room and was congratulated by everyone of her friends for doing such a good job as taking out Todoroki, and Jiro was congratulated as well. Soon the teacher got everyone's attention back to the day and talked about how the match went. After talking for a bit longer, they dismissed and let go of the day. Since that was the last class of the day, Stella was walking out of the school when her friend that she made came up to her and asked if she wanted to walk to the station together. Sorry girls, my boyfriend always picked me up in the car, Stella stated, and the girls looked at her funny. Stella, how old is your boyfriend since none of us are the legal age to drive? Ashido asked and raised an eyebrow. She wanted to tease her friend, but she was also concerned. Stella just chuckled and said, don't worry girls, he's the same age as us. He has a special job that provides him his certain legal protection and rights that allow him to drive, even though Japan's driving age is higher for cars than America. Stella stated and they nodded their heads as they heard the car pull up in front of them and the windows rolled down. Hello, my Hime, the male said, and in the car, and all of the girls looked at the individual and saw Stella's boyfriend, and they all felt he looked similar and like they should know him, and honestly, they should. Izuku thought had changed his hair and eye color to white like his father, so no one will directly match him to the missing poster. Hello, Iki. This is my friends I've made in the past few days. Here at UA. Girls, this is my boyfriend Izuku Midoriya. We've been dating, as I said in class, for several years now, but we knew each other as friends for years before that as well. Stella stated as she introduced Izuku to them all and them to him. Izuku waved at them and greeted them all. Izuku was blunt when she spoke. So Midoriya, what do you do for a living since Stella said your work brought you two here to Japan? Also call me too. As we asked and Stella caught as Isui Asui bluntness. Sorry guys, it's getting hard to breathe lately, so sorry too, but I legally can't tell you since you don't have the ability to know about it. Just know, I work for the United States government doing work here in Japan currently, but Stella does know what I do since she was read in my job since she came with me per my request to my employers. Izuku stated and the girls nodded their heads at the statement and accepted it since Stella did confirm that she knew about his job. Soon she got into the car and they drove away, but what neither of them saw was Eraserhead, who was leaving the campus but was in shock when he saw the person in the car. He was trapped in his thoughts because he was sure he saw Izuku Yagi, but the hair and eye color were completely different. Did he get quick to change it? Vermilion said Izuku Midoriya, so let's see if I can dig into that, but I think I might be good to inform Nizu though, since I don't want to scare him away if he is my nephew, Aizawa thought, as he turned around and headed into the school building and went straight for Nizu's office. He soon arrived at Nizu's office and just walked straight in without even knocking, which shocked Nizu a bit. Nizu? I think I found Izuku, Aizawa stated, and Nizu shocked on his tea and shouted, explain. Nizu stated and Aizawa informed him of what he saw and heard about so-called Izuku Midoriya. Nizu sat there and thought and decided to inform Aizawa of his theories. I think the pro hero hunter is Izuku also. If I remember correctly, the last Midoriya is the same as the most powerful businessman in America. That thing is how did they meet and Izuku end up like this? Aizawa just keeps the eye out on Scylla and this Izuku Midoriya. You might be right, and Izuku had somehow changed his eyes and hair color, which the power and the money Hisashi Midoriya in America has. It would be easy for him to find someone with a quirk to do it. Nezu stated and Aizawa nodded his head. They felt so much hope in likelihood of them finding Izuku once again, but the question is, how big of a change has he gone under since he left and returned? Nezu thought as he was glad that Izuku seemed to have gone down the path of being a hero, but the question is, how did he get a quirk? And Aizawa wanted to know that as well, but they would have to wait to get their answers for now. With that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this part. I hope it's reached 1 hour after the edits and removing all the silence. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this part. And I might be having these internet issues because my internet provider in my country are fixing their crap because the cable got cut. So yeah, so I hope I can post this soon as possible. With that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe and help us out to get to our new goal, which is 15k or 20k before the end of the year. And also it helps us out with the YouTube algorithm and stuff like that. And stay home, stay safe, wash your hands, and spend the time with the most precious people you have. See you next video. Peace out. Bye bye. Also take care of yourself because you are the most important individual person to have. And see ya.